Hey everyone, I'm Michelle from Weekend Craft, and today I am going to be talking about the difference between sublimation and iron-on vinyl. We're going to be looking at two different processes to make custom shirts, and I'm going to show you guys the pros and cons of each, and it's going to help you be able to make the right decision on when to use sublimation and when to use iron-on vinyl. So let's jump right in. So let's talk about sublimation first. So sublimation is the process of printing out on with sublimation ink, and then that ink, once you heat it to a high temperature for an extended period of time, it basically turns to a gas and then fuses with polyester, and it goes right into your shirt or whichever sublimation blank that you are using. So if we come in and take a closer look at this, we can see that this ink is actually fused in with the fabric here. Now this is a permanent process, so it's not sitting on top of the fabric, but it is now part of the polyester. Now I'm going to print my sublimation print on A-sub paper on my SG 500, which is my Sawgrass sublimation printer. So I'm using my EasyPress 3. You need to use an EasyPress or heat press that heats up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit and has a countdown of 60 seconds. So I'm taking heat resistant tape and we are going to tape our sublimation print into place. Now you don't want to skip this step because if your print moves during that heat process, you will get ghosting on your shirt. So heating this up 400 degrees, 60 seconds, and we are using a Cricut infusible ink shirt, which is 100% polyester. So the higher the polyester count, the more vibrant your colors. So we're gonna peel back your print, and here I'm just telling you, you can use siliconized paper or butcher block paper to protect your heat press. Now we're pulling this back and look at that. That ink transferred so nicely onto our t-shirt here. Now you can see that the sublimation ink has transferred on to the fibers of the shirt. The one thing I'll note is I did do a bit, probably like medium pressure with my hands, which left an indentation from the Easy Press on the shirt. So after this, I'll just hit it with the Easy Press again to smooth out those lines. We can stretch with this. We can wash it as many times as we want. So with sublimation, you don't need a die cutting machine. You just need a sublimation printer. And so you can use a Sawgrass. Epson has some sublimation printers, or if you're looking for a more budget-friendly option, you can convert an Epson EcoTank. Now, if you check the notes below, I'll show you guys how to set up an SG500, and I also have a video on how to convert an Epson EcoTank. Now, with sublimation, it's important to know that you need to be sublimating on a surface that has a polyester coating or a high polyester count. So this is a blank here from Cricut. It has a very high polyester count. I believe it's 100. And the higher the polyester count, the more vibrant the colors you're going to get. So if you want to use any sort of t-shirt, you want to make sure that has 60% or above, and remember, the higher the poly count, the more vibrant your ink colors are going to be. Another thing to note with sublimation is you're going to want to use a light colored shirt or a light colored blank. So you can do white, you can do gray, light like pastels, but white is usually your best friend when it comes to this. Now, it's also important to note that there is no white ink. So any white that you need in your design has to come from the shirt design below. So That's just something very important to note. If you want to do sublimation on darker colors, you might have to do kind of like a hack process where you sublimate onto glitter iron-on vinyl, or you use a product like Caesar Easy Subli. Now let's talk about iron-on vinyl. So I'm cutting Cricut iron-on everyday vinyl on my Cricut Maker 3. I did the design in Cricut Design Space, and we're using the same design we used for sublimation. Now we're weeding out the excess vinyl to show our design here, and you'll see that our graphic is mirrored because what we are peeling back is actually the back side of the iron-on vinyl. So once we have this all removed, we're going to take out sort of the inside of our A's and our D, and we're ready to put this on our shirt. So I'm heating up my Easy Press 3 to 315 degrees and for 30 seconds. So you'll want to do a pre-press on your shirt for about 5 seconds, and then we are going to press this for 30 seconds. Now it's important that you always press the front and then you press the back for about half the time, so 15 seconds. Now this is a cool to touch peel, so I let it cool a little bit and I peeled back the carrier sheet. So this is a project that I did with iron-on vinyl. So I used a Cricut gold vinyl. It's like an everyday iron-on. And as you can see, it's sitting on top of the shirt where sublimation is actually fused into the fabric. So that is one of the main differences here, that iron-on sits on top of the fiber and sublimation gets infused into the fiber. Now, with iron-on vinyl, you do need to cut it with a die cutting machine, so like a Cricut or a Silhouette. And in order to do multiple colors with the iron-on, you would need to use multiple colors of iron-on. So they come in rolls like this, and you'll see one side is shiny, one side is dull. So this is actually the side, it's the backing here, that adheres to the shirt. So we cut it from behind, and then we are going to use either a household iron or a heat press to add it to your shirt. Now, I don't suggest using a household iron. It never really adheres properly and never lasts very long if you're using a household iron. So with iron-on vinyl, you are going to need a Cricut or a heat press. And in sublimation, you need a sublimation printer and a heat press. So I will say that iron-on vinyl is great. It works on dark colors where sublimation does not, but you're probably only going to get about 30 to 40 great washes out of this, if that, depending on the iron-on vinyl that you use. You're always going to wash it inside out and usually on cold. There'll be some washing instructions on the vinyl that you get. Now, like I said, you can do this on darker material where sublimation you cannot. So that's some of the main differences. Some of the cons can be that after a while and so many washes, and if you do throw it in the dryer, that the sublimation can, or the iron-on can start to lift and bubble. It can also crack. Now I have a ton of iron-on shirts that I've made throughout the years that I am still wearing to this day that I love. So there are pros and cons to each. So you can see here that iron-on vinyl actually sits on top of the fabric and it stretches with the fabric. Sublimation is actually infused into the polyester and it doesn't sit on top, and it can stretch with the fabric, which will lead over time to less cracking. There won't be any cracking on your sublimation, where there potentially will be cracking on your iron-on vinyl. So I hope you guys learned something today about the difference between sublimation and iron-on vinyl. And I hope you can make an educated decision when you go to make a shirt or a project to use the material that would work best for it. And if you guys have enjoyed this and I don't know, maybe enjoyed spending some time with me, hop on over to Instagram. I am at Weekend Craft, and you can find me also on YouTube at Weekend Craft. Again, thank you guys so much for letting me teach you the difference between sublimation and iron-on vinyl. I had a great time, and I will see you next time.